It was one of those evenings that felt unusually heavy, even though nothing had really happened during the day to cause it. I had just come home from running errands, balancing a bag of groceries in my arms and fumbling with my keys when I noticed how quiet the house felt. Normally, there was some kind of background noise, maybe the hum of the TV or the faint sound of neighbors outside, but that evening, silence wrapped itself around me. I pushed the door open with my shoulder, set the grocery bag down on the table, and started unpacking. My mind was already drifting through a mental checklist: dinner, laundry, emails I hadn't responded to yet. Life always had a way of stacking tasks until you didn't even realize how much weight you were carrying. I turned toward the living room, ready to put away the last of the items, when I saw him. He was sitting on the couch, shoulders hunched forward, hands pressed tightly against his face, as if he was trying to hold something in. For a moment I froze, not because I was scared, but because I felt like I was intruding on a moment that wasn't meant for anyone else to see. His chest moved unevenly, and though he wasn't making any sound, I could tell he was holding back tears. It was so unexpected. I never thought I'd walk in and catch him like that, so raw, so human. He was always the one who put on a brave face, who carried the image of strength and control. But in that instant, he looked like a young man weighed down by a world too big for him. My first instinct was to quietly back out of the room and pretend I hadn't seen anything. But something in my heart told me not to. Instead, I stepped softly into the room, setting down the bag I was still holding. "Hey," I said gently, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't respond at first, didn't even look up. I hesitated, not wanting to push him, but also not wanting him to think he was alone. I walked closer, sat down at the far end of the couch, and gave him a moment. Silence stretched between us, heavy but not empty. Finally, he took a deep, shaky breath and let his hands fall to his lap. His eyes were red, and there was a vulnerability in them that made my chest ache. "I didn't mean for you to see this," he muttered, his voice low. "You don't have to apologize," I said softly. "It's okay." That was all I offered at first, no questions, no judgment. Just space. And slowly he started to talk. He told me about the pressure he had been under, the expectations he felt crushing him from every side, about how he tried to keep up, to stay strong, to act like everything was fine, but inside, he was unraveling. He had kept it hidden for so long that letting it out, even in front of me, felt both terrifying and relieving. I listened. I didn't interrupt, didn't try to solve anything right away. Sometimes the best kind of help isn't fixing the problem. It's simply sitting there so someone knows they're not carrying the burden alone. At one point, when words failed him and he lowered his head again, I reached out and rested my hand lightly on his shoulder. It wasn't much, but it was enough. His shoulders shook once, then again, until finally the wall he had built came down, and he let himself cry. We stayed like that for a while, no words needed. Just the quiet sound of someone finally letting go of what they'd held in too long. Eventually, when the storm inside him began to calm, I stood and walked into the kitchen. I boiled some water, found 2 mugs, and poured tea. When I brought it back, he gave me a look of gratitude that didn't need to be spoken. He wrapped his hands around the mug like it was something grounding, something to hold on to. As the evening wore on, his voice grew steadier. He told me about fears he hadn't shared with anyone else, about dreams he worried were slipping away, about the loneliness of pretending to be okay when he wasn't. I shared some of my own struggles too, not to take away from his, but to let him know that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was part of being human. By the time the night settled fully around the house, the air between us felt lighter. He even laughed once or twice, a sound that made me smile because it felt like a small victory. We weren't solving the entire world's problems that night, but we were proving that moments of connection could make the impossible feel bearable. When he finally stood to leave, he looked different. Not completely healed, not magically fixed, but steadier somehow. Stronger because he had allowed himself to be weak for a moment. He thanked me quietly, and I simply told him he didn't have to thank me at all. That's what we do for the people we care about. We show up, even in the moments we don't expect, and we help. Later, after he was gone and the house was quiet again, I stood by the window and looked out at the night sky. The world outside hadn't changed, but something inside me had. Sometimes we don't realize the impact we can have just by being present, just by catching someone in a moment and choosing compassion instead of judgment. And that night, I realized something else too, that those moments, the ones we don't plan for, are the ones that often change everything.